So how do we write it? Let's get concrete. So there's many ways to do it, but I think a generally good template for people starting is to first, just on a blank piece of paper with no order whatsoever, just write down all the relevant experiences you can think of. Now that key word here is relevant. So you have to know exactly what the organization you're applying to, what the school you're applying to is, and what the subject matter you want to do is. So if it's business at Harvard Business School, those relevant experiences will be quite different than if you're trying to study, I don't know, philosophy at Oxford University. So relevant is context dependent. It depends on what school you're applying to and what subject field you're applying to. But then, of course, they're your experiences and your interests. So you have to think hard about what you've been doing that connects in any way whatsoever. Remember, this is just a throwaway piece of paper. This is something that you'll write down, and then you'll start on a separate piece of paper your essay. So you can be messy, but the key is to make sure that you're thinking about everything. So 5 weeks later, when you've written your essay, you don't realize that you forgot a key factor. So do that for all relevant experiences. Then number 2 is write all your relevant interests. And those may be things that even if you haven't had a lot of experience in, you're still interested in, because that can sometimes help you find hidden connections between your experiences. Then 3 is using the things that you've written down to ask the question, what makes you unique? So remember, we go back to that very first question I asked at the beginning of the presentation. What that every admissions officer asks. Why should we accept you to do X at Y? So number 1 and number 2 cover X, the subject matter, and Y, the organization. But number 3 is probably the most important point. It's why should we accept you? The people at Harvard Business School know that Harvard Business School is a great institution. The people at Oxford and LSE know that Oxford, LSE, and Cambridge are great institutions. They already know that. So what you need to do is to convince them that you are a valuable contribution to that, and to emphasize how you stand out from the crowd and how you approach problems in your own specific, effective way. So once you've got all 3 of those things just drawn out on a piece of paper, ask yourself how they all connect. And that can be as simple as drawing lines between the most relevant ones, circling your favorite ones, putting X's through ones that aren't the most relevant for this application, but save your outline because they may be relevant for applications in the future. And then finally, I say, or the 5th part is I say, what's your one-liner? So if I sat you down for an interview and you had 20 seconds to say who you are and why that school makes sense for you, what would you say? Once you have that, it'll be much easier. That's kind of your thesis statement for your personal statement, and it'll be much easier to write the rest of your personal statement and make sure that you're really emphasizing the most important parts of what you want to emphasize. And then go through, cut out the things that don't make sense to include this time, reorder in the sense that in the order that makes the most sense, and then start writing. So it's nothing too complex, but doing these basic tips are really going to help you get a great start to your personal